Hi everyone, welcome. I'm out here in my garden and I've got short sleeves on because when I was out here a few minutes ago the sun was out and there was no breeze. It was warm. I actually came out here to get this worm bag. It's just a couple grow bags nested one within the other that I'm running a number of worms in. I figured, I'll come out here, shoot some quick video on getting this thing fed. And the whole while I was out here, it was nice, warm, comfortable, and now it's a little bit chilly. But I've come this far, so I'm just gonna tough it out and get this done. So one thing we're seeing right here from the beginning is some of this shredded paper bag that I put in here as sort of a test. It's leaf bag, and I've been suspicious about leaf bags, wondering if there might be something about the material that they use for leaf bags to make it just a little bit tougher, a little bit less likely to tear open if you put soggy leaves in there, or if the bag is left out for a while before it gets collected and gets wet. And I thought that it would be maybe just a little bit more resilient to break down. So I put a kind of a mound of this stuff right down the middle where we fed last time. As much of it that I could sort of find and collect up, and I stacked it in here. You might see a little prevalence of it here. There's some other stuff mixed in here, but there's a good bit of it placed right in here. This bin's now 4 weeks old, 28 days of age, and it's received 2 feedings. It received one on day 7, and then it got another visit only a week later on day 14. We tried to make that last feeding a little bit more generous. Oh boy, it's like they've come out in droves to eat the food they got last time. So we tried to be a little bit more generous by putting a little bit more stuff in here, thinking that we can go a couple weeks now, and that's what I did. I waited 2 weeks, so 14 days have passed since the last check-in, and I thought that this time we might go even bigger. Maybe we would give them a larger portion of food. So I watched the video from last time to check out how much food I gave them, and then what I did was I collected up a whole bunch of stuff. And it's got some good weight to it. And there's some, softer things that will go quick. There's a couple other tougher things in here that might take some more time. I thought that this would be their feeding today, and that this time we can maybe go more than 2 weeks, maybe go 3 weeks or something. So the one thing about this system, though, when I just give it a little bit of a lift, before I started rolling, I just gave the whole bag a little bit of a lift to see what kind of weight there was, how heavy the bag was, and it seemed so light. So I thought I might have to bring water over here, and I got my watering can. Look at all these worms, holy cow. Are they eating my bedding? The test bedding. I think this is coffee that I'm seeing all mixed in over here. I mean, I guess they went for the food, that's what it looks like, because I'm seeing scraps of newspaper and different things put in here as bedding to go along with that last feeding. But I don't see anything that looks like leftovers. I think we estimated that there's almost 3,500 worms in here based on our observations. We all kind of pitched in our own individual guesses as to how many worms we thought occupy this system, and then we averaged those numbers together. And I think the number is somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,400 worms and change. And there's a lot of little baby worms in here too. So this, I've kind of stacked everything up over here. Check this out. I've also got some interesting material here. I was sweeping up underneath the tree here, maple tree, and all these little flowers. I mean, I don't know if you're like me, but the tree pollen lately, all these flowers blooming on the trees, has been murder for me. And I had so much of this stuff around my patio set, I thought maybe I would collect it up, and maybe it would become a good bedding for our feeding today. So I got a good bit of this stuff in this little trash pail. I don't think we'll use all of it, but I figured a couple handfuls of that before we start stacking in today's food. And as far as this goes, do I add water? I don't know. It just had this kind of feeling to it, like it was so light, but it doesn't seem to be lacking in moisture, thank goodness. I was worried. But, sometimes when I feel like I've got to perform a countermeasure, but then I, realize in the moment that it's really not even necessary, I almost feel like I'm kind of, intent on getting that done whether or not it's needed. But if it's not needed, I'm not going to do it. So, all right, let's put in a little bit of this flowers, whatever they are. So I didn't intend to be all fancy or anything with this food. I just figured I'd dump it in. Some of the stuff's in paper towels, a little piece of paper towel here and there. As you can see, there's fruits, there's veggies, there's roots. Here's another paper towel. A variety of different things in here. And it's a good amount of stuff too. Let's see if we can pop some of these little grapes. Most of them seem like they've already been breached by something brown. Something's already made its way into some of them. So this looks like a pretty good size feeding. You know, if we were to wait more than 2 weeks between now and the next feeding, it does seem to me like they might be okay. And especially if you treat all this stuff that I'm putting in here as bedding, all these flowers, that all probably has to count as food too, right? But you know what? I've also got one other thing. Once again, like last week, I did my origami. So this time, instead of folding a cup, I folded a salt shaker. Just so I could bring up some of this grit that I've got downstairs. So I don't have to bring up the whole container. I just figured I'd create a little transport container to bring the grit with, and a piece of material that we can just simply throw in here as additional bedding to go with today's feeding. So I think that's everything, and I'm just holding off here on putting the moisture in. I'm looking over my shoulder at the watering can, wondering if maybe the system would benefit a little bit from me dampening all this dry stuff that I'm pulling out of the sides up onto the top surface. Maybe just give it a quick dousing. Couldn't hurt, right? So why don't we do that? Just gonna bring up some of the stuff from around the edges. That seems a little bit on the dry side, all covering the top surface here now. We kind of undid my little test here on the bedding, and I think in the end we're just going to eventually start seeing less of it, and that'll tell us that the stuff's fine. Or who knows, 6 months from now we'll be looking at pieces that look like they haven't even been nibbled on, and then we'll be frustrated. So who knows. All right, here we go. Let's just give this whole thing a little bit of a soaking with my watering can. This water has just been sitting out here for ages, so a lot of it might just be rainwater that fell into the can too. But it's probably got very little, if any, chlorine in it remaining. And you know what? Perfect opportunity to rinse off my glove too while we're at it, right? Because I think we're done here. All I've got left to do now is to put things away and reorganize all this stuff I have here set up for the camera, because we're done feeding the outdoor worm bag. 4-week-old system, 3rd feeding now. And I think they're gonna do a good job on it, because you saw all those worms in there. They're gonna have a ball with that feeding. Hopefully I'll be able to come up with some sort of an excuse or reason to come back in here sooner than 3 weeks or more. It's always fun to kind of barge in on them while they're still working on an active pile of food. But you got to admit, I didn't see any leftovers. I don't know if you spotted anything, but all I saw was piles of worms, some mixed in bedding. Most of what they were fed last time 2 weeks ago appears to have been eaten, and that's great. All right, everyone, I'm done here now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching.